Hey guys, so I heard you want to improve your Tekken execution, but you can't afford yourself a Mixbox. Well, this might just be the answer. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Hello everyone and welcome to my review of the PXN X8 fighting box and how it fares specifically with Tekken 7. Before we get started, I need to let you know that this is not a sponsored video. This is my own model that I purchased myself, and so everything I'm about to say is 100% my honest feedback. I have always been a pad player and decided to buy the fight box to see how I'd get on with a WASD keyboard style controller with arcade style buttons. Also, for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you'll be aware that I'm a Tekken loyalist, and so don't do the whole 2D fighting game scene. Well, not since 1993, and so I will only be reviewing this in the context of Tekken, and in particular Tekken 7. For the review, I will quickly go over the specs and hardware, and how the fight box works specifically for Tekken movement mechanics, including both Korean backdashing and wave dashing. I will discuss the strengths and weaknesses, and finally, my honest opinion on whether I was happy with the purchase and whether I intend to continue to use it long term. Okay, so with all that done, let's get into it. So, let's quickly go over the specs and price. This is my first fight stick style controller, and so I will not be going over the detailed and unboxing or disassembly, although there are lots of videos like that here on YouTube. So covering the basics, the PXN is a Mixbox that combines a fight stick styled large 1 to 4 buttons with a WASD styled keyboard for movement. The keyboard uses mechanical Cherry MX Blue switches, which have a very positive feedback, but are also very loud. The buttons also use the same switches. As I mentioned, I'm not a fight stick technical connoisseur, but watching other videos on YouTube, my understanding is that the buttons switches are soldered. So you can mod them if you want to, but you will need to know how to use a soldering iron, and you can't just easily swap them out with new or modified switches. The fight box works native on PC, but requires a PS4 controller to piggyback should you want to use it on the PlayStation. All the necessary cables are included. When it comes to SOCD clearing, the fight box does have SOCD available if you install the correct firmware, which I'll discuss later in the video. I'm based in the UK and I purchased the X8 from Amazon for £67 back in January. At the time of recording in May, there is one still available from Amazon at that price, so this should cover all EU based customers subject to stock levels. For our American friends, they can be found on Amazon.com for about $60 or from AliExpress. So to put that into context, an official Mixbox will set you back about $270. So that means that this alternative is literally almost a quarter of the price of an official Mixbox style controller. So, if nothing else, it would appear to be exceptional value. Is a Mixbox controller 4 times better? I have no idea, as I haven't got enough money to buy one. But hey, if anyone from Mixbox is watching, then I'd be more than happy to review and test it. So, the question is it too good to be true? Well, let's look a bit deeper and we'll see. Okay, so before I jump in, I need to quickly outline what SOCD is. SOCD stands for Simultaneous Opposing Cardinal Directions. Yeah, quite a mouthful. To put it simply, this is when you push 2 opposite buttons at the same time. This is something that's physically impossible to do with traditional arcade-styled fight sticks, or the E-pads, because you just physically can't push the opposite inputs together. But when you have buttons instead of directions for the directional input, then you obviously can. Now, depending on the fighting game mechanics, this will determine what happens when you push 2 opposite directions together. For Tekken, this gives you a neutral input. So, what the hell does this mean, I hear you ask? Well, probably best I simply show you. So what's going on here? Well, in short, I'm doing a super clean KBD, Korean backdash, which on stick will take you literally years of training to perfect, but I'm doing it with literally only 2 fingers and 2 minutes of practice. As you can see, I'm using Paul here as the example because Korean backdashing is doubly hard on characters like Paul, Nina and Brian who have a back sway stance. So if your KBD isn't clean, you get this motion. For context, this is my equivalent KBD attempt on a pad. Bear in mind, I've been practicing this for about 2 years. So as you can see, because of SOCD, I can do an easy mode Korean backdash. Now just to be 100% clear, depending on where you purchase your X8 will determine whether you have SOCD enabled or not, as it depends on the firmware. If you have firmware 1.009, then you're all good. If you have firmware later than this, then SOCD will not be enabled. The good news is that if you email the company directly via their website, they will send you the correct firmware to allow this to work. It's slightly too long to cover it in this review, but if you want me to make a video explaining how to do this, then please drop me a comment below. So, we can see how easy it is to KBD using the SOCD method, but even without this, it is possible with practice by hitting back, hold down, then release down and release back and repeat. Along with backdashing, I'll quickly show you some wave dash examples. In order to wave dash, you need to do a forward, neutral, quarter circle forward, neutral and repeat. And for comparison, this is my wave dash on a pad. Okay, so now we've gone through the movement mechanics, let's look at the strengths and weaknesses. As I've already shown, if you have SOCD enabled, even a trained monkey can do a KBD like knee or JDCR. So in Tekken, where movement is critical but normally hard to do, this is a big plus, especially if you play a character that relies a lot on whiff punishment. I'm going to show you a few examples here where you have to do an extremely quick quarter circle input, in some cases frame perfect. As you can see, because of the nature of the keyboard, you can do these extremely fast. So if you main a character that has a lot of quarter circle inputs, then this is perfect. Now I have already produced a video on how to do instant while running moves on a pad, link above, and although there's no way of cheating with the keyboard, the fact is you can do these inputs much faster with a keyboard styled input. Just to demonstrate what I mean, I'm going to do some examples of moves that require instant while running inputs, but I won't cut or edit the video so you can see how consistent this is on this controller. Finally, and I have mentioned this at the start, but it's worth repeating, the price of this controller completely blows away the competition. I simply can't understand how or why an official Mixbox controller can cost 4 times the price of this one. I mean, this is not even much more expensive than replacing a DS4 controller. Okay, so having gone through the strengths, let's go through the weaknesses because nothing is perfect. Although I said this can be compatible with a PlayStation, it does require a fairly convoluted way of doing it, where you have to piggyback off a DS4 pad rather than just plugging it in straight away. Now I've not actually tested this with my PS4 because, well, to be honest, I couldn't be bothered to faff around with it, and I think that tells you all you need to know. If you only play Tekken on PlayStation and you have a spare DS4 pad, then maybe this will work for you. I personally couldn't be bothered to set it up from my PC to my PlayStation, where my PC is just plug and play. The keys are extremely loud. Allow me to demonstrate. So if you're playing at night or you don't want to disturb your loved ones, then bear this in mind. Although a lot of inputs are a lot easier, I can't say the same for half circle inputs. I admit this could be a skill issue on my part, but I find half circle inputs much trickier compared to on a pad. Now as a king main, this is a serious drawback because not having a consistent giant swing is a serious issue. Very often when I try to sidestep I get a jump. Now to be fair, I get this too on my DS pad, and I've seen the best players in the world get a random jump when they're meant to do a sidestep, so this is probably a skill or restriction of the Tekken Mechanics, but it does seem to happen more often using this fight stick rather than a D-pad. So I started the video under the question of whether this could be a much cheaper replacement than a Mixbox, and the short answer is, yeah, it probably is. The longer answer is that I could only tell you if I played on both over a very long period of time to see or check how robust they are, but from the initial inspection, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. Now there are some drawbacks as I've already mentioned, but I think those drawbacks are easily worth the cost savings in my opinion. So the more personal question is, am I going to stop playing pad and convert fully to the fighting box? And the answer, which may surprise you, is no. I know that seems crazy where I've shown you just how good the potential is, but here's a slight problem for me. I've played on a pad for literally years, and these days, owing to family and work commitments, I just don't have that much time to really play Tekken, and so although I can use the X8 for super reliable execution and combos say in practice mode, I just don't have the muscle memory embedded for me to play a solid neutral game and move freely in a game. It's hard to explain, but using the keys just isn't natural to me, and in the heat of battle where you're playing on instincts, I just haven't got it in my muscle memory. Now, if I had the time to do nothing but play Tekken for say a week, I could probably get it into my muscle memory, but unfortunately I just can't commit to it. So I'll save it for when I make a combo or YouTube videos, or if I'm playing offline. If however you have the time, or if you're new to Tekken, I would 100% recommend the X8, especially if you play a character with a lot of quarter circle inputs or a backsway, which makes KBDs a little bit harder. Well, thanks all. I hope that's helped you decide whether you want to purchase the X8. I'd love to know your thoughts and feedbacks in the comment section, especially if you're a keyboard or stick player. If you think I've deserved it, be sure to drop the video a like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.